Every Thursday night, you ask the questions, DT gives you his answers. No holds barred.
It's Q&A with Don Tony. This is your chance to speak your mind and be heard about anything.
Q&A with Don Tony. And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right, the mailbag is back. Show me on the screen. There you go. Q&A with DT right here, live. It is Thursday. I know most of you will not see this until Tuesday. I figured we uploaded Tuesday since Tuesday, Patreon is pretty much dedicated for our Patreon family and some Elite Channel members on YouTube. I want to welcome everyone. And I want to thank you for all of your questions, your feedback, your comments. Much appreciated. I tell you, this mailbag gets better. It's more highly received than I expected because some questions sometimes can get really out there. But one feedback that I keep getting from a lot of you out there is the reason why you like the mailbag so much is that a lot of topics do not get outdated. This is not time sensitive in a lot of ways. So you could go back to this episode 3 months later, and a lot of the questions would be still up for debate. And as I go through the list of questions for this episode, I think this is a great example of it. So anyway, let's get right into it because I know I tend to run off the rails sometimes and ramble. So, George Ford, do I think if WWE does less premium live events in 2023, it'll produce a better product? Maybe longer storylines that last a couple of months. I'm kind of caught in the middle with this. I'll tell you why. I don't know if people really dissect it, but we have seen a lot of storylines, a lot of feuds last 3-4 months. Not all, but quite a few, more than you realize. Plus, another thing is, WWE has had a habit of really going the scenic route on TV. If you remember, even like Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, when they were going to fight to determine the number one contender for Roman Reigns' championship, instead of them just having the advertised match on SmackDown, Sheamus claims to get COVID, then we get an attack, and then we get this, and then it gets postponed for 3 weeks. We have The Miz right now with this reveal about Dexter Lumis. And this Monday on Raw, he's supposed to reveal it. I will bet the ranch that gets postponed for another week or two. They like to really delay things. So if you do a premium live event every 7 weeks instead of every 4 or 5 weeks, I think what happens more than anything is WWE puts filler on TV. Look, this Monday on Raw, we're going to have Bayley taking on Bianca Belair one more time. Title's not even on the line. So what is the purpose of this match? We have Saudi Arabia in 9 days. 16 days. So, what's the purpose? Where's the women's match for Saudi Arabia? If they're playing this off that Bayley and Bianca are now going to move on as of this Monday's Raw, why even have that match? We just had Extreme Rules. What's the purpose? So it just feels like they are stalling in a lot of ways as far as TV goes. So I don't know if it'll really produce, that much better quality TV. It will take stress off of some wrestlers. Roman Reigns, I think, benefits this because if they do a premium live event every 7 or 8 weeks, then Roman Reigns could appear on all of them. But when you really think about it, how many premium live events are they going to cut in 2023? 2? Maybe 3? Is it going to be that much different? I don't think so. Brian, big fan of the show. Listening since 2015. His favorite 2 shows are the Don Tony Show and This Week in Wrestling History. He loves the clips, the effort. I've been doing this going on 26 years. This Week in Wrestling History was the hardest project I've ever done. I remember some episodes taking me 7-8 hours of editing. Once I started and I realized how popular it was, I couldn't turn back. And believe me when I tell you, I'm not going to lie, when I ended, into season 2, I was very relieved. I worked so fucking hard on that. And I take pride of those episodes. And they're still online for everyone to enjoy. It's not easy to research the history of pro wrestling that's available on audio and video and try not to leave anything out. But he says that season 1 only goes up to 42 episodes. What happened to the rest? I can't control what is shown on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart. I could tell you 2 places you could get the other episodes easily. Number 1, this is not a money grab, but if anyone signs up on our Patreon, patreon.com/Don Tony, you could sign up for $5. You got 7 years of Patreon exclusive content. You have ad-free episodes of every history show that I did. So they're all up there. What you can also do is you can go to my website, dontony.com. You can even click on this episode that you're watching right now. And there's always a link that says click here for previous episodes. If you click that, a player will come up. Scroll down the menu, you will find all the other episodes. So that goes out for everyone out there. And by the way, for anybody that's ever thought about joining Patreon, they have changed the setting now. So in the past, you were always charged the first of the month. And it got a little tricky because halfway into the month, some people out there wouldn't sign because like, oh, I'm only going to get 2 weeks worth of benefits. And then I would have to manually credit people. Now, whenever you sign up, that's when you're charged every month. So right now, if let's say you signed up on the 21st of October, you would not be charged on November 1st. You would be charged November 21st. So that's something that has changed as of a couple of days ago. So in case anybody wants to take advantage of that. Rain Entertainment gave me a list, in his opinion, the biggest faces and heels in different eras within WWE. He doesn't include women with this. He doesn't include wrestlers who had their biggest runs outside of WWE. And he just wants to know if I agree or disagree with his list. Now, obviously, when you start dissecting 5-year spans, you know, I would have to really go back and look to see who dominated in those 5 years. So it would be impossible for me to give you my answers to these, but I'm going to put them out there. I'll give you my quick reaction if I agree or disagree. And this is up to debate for everyone else out there to enjoy. So the golden era, which he calls it, from the late 80s to the early 90s, in his opinion, the top WWE faces were Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Top heels was Yokozuna and the $1 Million Man. Not sure about Yoko, because Yoko, I think, was more early to mid-90s. And, you know, if you're going early 90s, it's up to 92, 93. That's only like 2-3 year span. It's not bad. I think Sergeant Slaughter was, you know, not that long, but when you have bomb threats going on, I would have to go back, but that's not that bad. New Generation, which was the mid-90s. Top baby faces, Bret Hart, Lex Luger. Top heels, Shawn Michaels, Yokozuna. I love the Shawn Michaels one, absolutely. Yoko, mid-90s, was he the top heel? I think you'd be up for argument that I think a lot of people liked Yokozuna. I know I did. The Attitude Era, from 97 to 01, top baby faces, Austin and Rock. Okay. Top heels, Triple H, Vince McMahon. Not bad. Not bad at all. Ruthless Aggression from 2002 to 2008. Top baby faces, John Cena and Batista. Top heels, Edge, Randy Orton. I like it. PG era of 08 to 13. Top baby faces, John Cena and CM Punk. Top heels, Randy Orton and CM Punk. I don't know if I would put Punk in the babyface category. I think he was much better as a wise-ass heel. Voice of the voiceless, yes. But I kind of think Jeff Hardy does belong on there. Even RVD. The Reality Era, 14 to 16. Top baby faces, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley. Top heels, Brock Lesnar, Kevin Owens. Okay, not bad. And the New Era, which is 2016 to the present. Top baby faces, AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre. Top heels, Roman Reigns and The Fiend. I don't know how I feel about Drew and AJ Styles for the last 6 years. No question they're up there as baby faces, but I don't know if I would put either in those categories. But not bad. Not bad at all. Thank you for that. That was obviously a lot of thinking on your part. Kevin Milwaukee, booking doesn't seem to know what to do with Danhausen in AEW. And it's a shame because his character before AEW was always sensible, and that's what he liked about him. And he thinks that Tony Khan needs to give Danhausen his own talk show segment, like a goofy Piper's Pit. I like the idea. I mean, him just coming out with the best friends and doing random things here and there, it's almost like a mascot. I think Danhausen has more worth for that. Now, he is very interactive on social media. Believe it or not, I don't have the list in front of me. Danhausen is one of the, I don't want to say top, because Mick Foley, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, Bret Hart and others. But as far as the second tier of wrestlers on Cameo, Danhausen cleans up. Danhausen probably makes like $100,000 a year on Cameo. I don't know if that's after fees or not, but, that liberty, that freedom to be able to do outside projects, you see where that money could be made up. But I agree with you. If you're going to have Danhausen in AEW, I would definitely use him a little bit differently. And I like the talk show segment. I think AEW, one of their biggest problems is having too many non-wrestling segments on their Dynamite episodes. I mean, way too many. And I get it. They only strap for 2 hours and Rampage is an hour. So it's 2 hours or less programming a week compared to WWE. But still, you have this size of a roster, just trying to cram everything in there to cram it in there. A lot of people suffer because of it. Tuxedo Earth. Do I think Bianca Belair will have a long title run? I do. I think Bianca Belair, she is obviously writing history right now for WWE, and so well respected, so beloved. And there's no way that WWE is going to have Bianca Belair's current title run be looked at as a disappointment. I don't expect her to lose that title in the near future. I mean, look, anything can happen, but Bianca Belair is one of their, at the end of the day, she is going to be in the top 5 of the greatest women ever to perform in WWE. And I'm not just talking about in the ring. I'm talking about just character. She is a role model. She's a top role model. There's so much to like about Bianca Belair. And it's not just what you could do in the ring. She represents WWE beautifully. So, my favorite Halloween candy. I know I've been trying to stay away from sugar or being off keto right now. Believe it or not, bread doesn't cause me to gain weight. Sugar does. I could have sugar, gain 5 pounds in one day. I've noticed it. I mean, I lose it, but I could tell sugar fucks me up. But if I could have anything, candy corn. See, I don't consider chocolate Halloween candy because I can have chocolate anytime I want. For me, candy corn. There's something about candy corn that I absolutely love. Congratulations on the Giants beating his Ravens. Is Lamar Jackson an NFL bust? I think it's too soon to tell. I don't follow his career that much, but I do see him getting ripped apart on social media all the time. Look, I don't want to call him the Baron Corbin in the NFL, but look, Baron Corbin now, he just came back with JBL. WWE thinks that this run now with JBL by his side is actually going to turn the corner for him. And it could happen. It could happen. I'm not a fan of Baron Corbin. My point is, let's say Baron Corbin does turn the corner and people are starting to acknowledge, that he's not bad, pretty good. Was it worth all that time on the main roster to get to that point? So the question as far as Lamar is, when he does turn that corner, was it worth it for all the time that he's been out there? I think it's too early. But obviously, when you have an NFL season, it's like, 16 games? You screw up a quarter of it, your season is fucked. So, Rams fan, what if I never got into my car accident in 1995? Did I ever watch 227? I should have looked at these questions in deep before I did it live. I don't like to read the questions in advance, because one thing that I've always loved to do on any of my shows is give you my spur of the moment reactions to stuff. It used to get me in a lot of trouble back in the day. I mean, you listen to some of the retro stuff especially. I would say some off-the-wall things that, it's because I didn't think before I talked, and that got me in trouble sometimes. But I like answering them head on without thinking. That's why I say for a lot of you out there, give me things that I can answer like this. If it requires research, then you overthink things. And but 227, I do remember the show. I was never a big fan of it. At that time, you're talking now early 90s, mid 90s. For me, it was more going out, a lot of wrestling, live and in person. ECW consumed me from 94 till it closed. As far as TV, I was more like In Living Color, Beavis and Butthead, Married with Children, shows like that. The Wayans Brothers. 227 was never really high on my list, but my mom would watch it. And I would watch a little bit here and there. And, I don't remember the character. I know one of them had, watermelons. I can't remember her name right now, but, it was a fun show from what I saw. It was very, very lighthearted. Obviously wasn't the Golden Girls because the women were much younger, but it kind of gave me that Golden Girls vibe. Like fun, easy watching, nothing uber controversial, just good, easy comedy, And I think that's missing a lot in this day and age. But should it return like it was in the past? I don't know. I think for a lot of people out there, especially with TV now being so loose with the vulgarity, sexual scenes and things like that, I think it would just be looked at as extremely boring in a lot of people's eyes. Like you'll watch it because it gives you nostalgic vibes. Nostalgia is part of the reason why you watch, not because of what you're watching. It's the feeling you get. That's why with comfort food, why do people really love comfort food? Because it tastes really good, or does it give you memories of childhood, of your mom, your dad when you were younger? You're getting together with your families, going out, with events. That's when I have comfort food, I think of my younger years as a kid. So it's not just, shepherd's pie, fried chicken with corn and gravy. It's not like the most delicious things that I eat, but because of that nostalgic feeling you get from it, you think about yesteryear. So, it's a little bit psychological. If I never got into my car accident in 1995, I truly believe that I would have pursued wrestling a little bit more. I would have pursued wrestling a little bit more. I definitely would have gone full blown with the indie wrestling managing. I don't think I would have ever gone anywhere with it. But, to have Fat Frank from Jersey All Pro Wrestling, God rest his soul, to have me work some of his school shows, the minor league that he had, what was it, Jersey Championship? I can't remember the name of it. But, to get that opportunity, and I didn't ask, I didn't offer to put down rings, I didn't offer to sell tickets. He said, why don't you work some of my shows, put more work in there. That's when I thought, hey, maybe I can get a little bit better at this. I had so much fun, but the pain and the complications from my car accident, I had to stop. I regretted it. If I never had my car accident in 1995, things would be much, much different right now. First of all, I would not have met my ex in 1996. I would probably not be with my wife right now, which would really suck because she is awesome. Life would be tremendously different for yours truly. I used to love playing baseball, softball. I probably would have stood on a softball. I might have even considered still being on a softball league to this day. Life would have been completely different for yours truly. But you know what? Shit happens. Things happen for a reason. And I look where I am right now and, having a roof over my head, still having my family, having my friends, all of you, my wife, with the exception of, my dog not being around anymore. And listen, even if he never got sick, he would have still passed away by now. He would be 23 years old. A miniature Doberman does not live to be 23, so he still would have been gone. But life would have been much different for yours truly. Would I be doing these shows? I don't even know if I'd be doing these shows. Remember, a lot of the depression of having the situation with my car accident is what started the show, the shows in 97. Being home too much, listening to wrestling hotlines, leaving messages, interacting with other hotlines, and getting such good response that they all said to me, why don't you start your own hotline? So I don't even know if I'd be doing this right now. No idea. But life probably would have been much different. Not saying it would be better, but it would be different. Gary Vaughn, what show could I turn on the TV and just relax? One I barely have to pay attention to. For him, it's The Simpsons. Believe it or not, Gary Vaughn, even though I've watched him over and over and over, I still, Forensic Files. I never liked Forensic Files when they first aired. I thought they were boring. I thought, they were just very kind of lackluster because the episodes would only be 30 minutes, so they were rushed. As I got older, hearing, I can't remember the commentator's name, but that soothing, calm. I mean, he would get excited sometimes. I've talked about this in the past. I can't remember his name right now, but, when he would talk about somebody being attacked, like you listen to him in the earlier years, he would get like really excited. And then she tried to run, but she couldn't. And then it was over. Like, as the violence, she's struggling. She's trying to fight for her life. And then it was over. Late at night, I put that on. I get this soothing, calming voice talking to me. And, Forensic Files for me. Sometimes with wrestling, Jim Cornette, sometimes my channel, my YouTube channel, I get recommended stuff, and I could be watching something that has nothing to do with wrestling, but because my setting is set that, best video, like what plays next, Jim Cornette always seems to come on, and sometimes I'll go the whole night. Jim Cornette will be playing in the background, not because I requested it, but because YouTube recommended it. So sometimes Jim Cornette, I could sleep with listening in the background. So Pro Wrestling Talk, what is my what the fuck moment in wrestling? There's obviously a lot. You have stuff in TNA, some old WWF/WWE stuff. For me, there was a lot with Vince. Katie Vick stuff, Claire Lynch, I think that wasn't it. For me, and I brought this up recently, the night that Vince McMahon had Melanie Pillman on Raw, that I had to change the channel. It felt so fucking awkward. It just was just weird. Vince McMahon had just, remember, this is right around the time, he's gonna puke. Like, I think Vince, was, really, really into the fact, holy fucking shit. I got the wife on, the husband just died the day before, and or the week before, whatever it was. And, what are you going to do now? You have all these kids. You have all these bills. Vince, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was just fucked up. It was so uncomfortable. The other stuff was uncomfortable as well, but that was just, I was like, what the fuck? Why is she on the TV? Let the family mourn. Mr. Cool Johnny Dude 666. I think he is better known as Charlie Conway in the chat room. Now, I appreciate the multiple questions. Some of you out there, when you put a lot, can't spend a half an hour on you, brothers. It's not fair to everyone else who tunes in and for everyone who submits stuff as well. So I have to turn it into rapid fire. Some of what you write, I've said it before, you have to elaborate a little bit more. But I'm going to get through this, and I will answer it as quickly and as best as I could. I'm going to read it exactly how he writes it. Amy Weber's situation involves Edge got extreme. I have no idea what you're talking about. Amy Weber was one of those models that WWE hired that had no wrestling experience, that a lot of people within wrestling, they did not respect some of those women that came around, and some of them were hazed really, really bad. Mickie James' September speech. Thoughts. Mickie James is at the tail end of her career. It is sad to see how small of an audience that this is taking place in front of. I don't think Mickie James will turn into a Terry Funk or a Ric Flair or someone else where she retires and then she comes back for more matches. I think she needs to retire in WWE. I think her final match, even though Impact Wrestling has gave her a bigger platform in recent time than anyone else would, I still think Mickie James should retire in WWE. Do I talk to Kevin Castle periodically? I send him the questions for his Thursday show he does weekly on Patreon. He sends me the link. I post the shows, and that's it. We talk a little bit, but, we really haven't had any in-depth conversations for quite some time. There's no ill will. There's no anger. There's no animosity. But, I'd be lying to you if I said that we have conversations. Why didn't I drive to Disney then fly? Because my fucking hip is killing me, and I don't want to drive for 20-something hours. I did that in 1990, and I'll never do that again. Eric Garner situation, do I have any thoughts? No. Damage Control faction, do I have any thoughts? It takes two to tango, and the problem is not Damage Control themselves. It's who they're feuding with. Alexa Bliss and Asuka just felt thrown together. Damage Control, I guarantee if they would have feuded with Sasha Banks and Naomi, people would have looked at it completely different. Isn't Seinfeld and the Tammy Sitch turkey thumbnail a bit harsh or cruel? Maybe. The thing is I wanted to show a turkey with a thermometer in it that said, that stick a fork in her, she's done. I mean, unfortunately, her career is done in the wrestling/entertainment world for at least the next 10 to 15 years. And, I started trying to be a little lighthearted about it. And I saw the Seinfeld turkey picture, so that's why I did it. Why these wrestling sites, others cut and paste instead of doing their own stuff? Because it's quick, it's easy, and it's cheap. Why do you think a lot of these YouTube channels, they don't even have people on your screen? They have robots reading text, and they get 15, 20, 30, 50,000 views. They make money off of it. So for some of them, make money by doing the least amount of work. Which way does Rock and Reigns feud go? Too soon to tell. The Cena, wow, we still got a second pass, so I'm gonna have to trim some of this. The Cena Orton unifying the aforementioned championships from TLC 13 vary as far as Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Two totally different eras looked at completely differently. Could Tony Khan ultimately get a grip on the AEW situation? I think he will be forced to. I think if the network gives him an ultimatum to, make some improvements, I think Tony Khan right now, as long as he's got the opportunity to do what he does, I think that's enough for him to be happy. Is he at fault for a lot of the ongoing issues? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. He doesn't step up. He doesn't act like a leader. He acts like an opportunist, like giving people opportunity. But he doesn't act like a leader. He never made the statement when MJF stepped away. And I know why. We've already discussed that, but, just saying no comment. It sounds like a child that is afraid to get put in a corner. That's how it feels to me. Why does it seem like AEW's on a signing spree? Because Tony Khan is like a child that has to have every toy in the store. Saraya wrestles or GMs. I think I've said that like 100 times on the shows. Saraya is going to wrestle. She's going to wrestle. You should hear an announcement within the next week or two. Which kind of effect does a Benoit tragedy incident have on WWE wrestling? WWE handled the Owen Hart situation. Do I think they handled it properly? Never happened before. so it's very easy to Monday morning quarterback that. At the time, it did feel a little awkward that the event still continued. But, I mean, do I think they should have stopped the show? Yes. Yes. But at the time, they didn't want to put the thought in people's minds, especially live there. You want people freaking out and stuff like that. I mean, it's a judgment call. Would the Olive Branch CM Punk and WWE? Well, I'm going to have a conversation about that this weekend on the Don Tony show. So definitely look out for that. Do I prefer the current Yankee Stadium or the old Yankee Stadium? I love the old Yankee Stadium. Too much nostalgia. My dad taking me when I was a kid. Explain wrestling office jobs. It's the same like anyone else. Accounts receivable, accounts payable, meeting with advertisers, investors, it's office work. It's just not in front of the camera. Captain Lenny, we never went to court. We went on the Masked Maniacs show that time, had a wild discussion, which I have played on the shows before, and he never, went through with it. I'm very grateful for that. Very weird person, Captain Lenny. Contrast the John Cena DX celebration messages. John Cena, that was also Vince McMahon's going away. So it's no secret John Cena went to Vince McMahon's birthday party earlier this year. DX celebration was just to get a couple extra eyes on Raw. They could have celebrated 25 years anytime during 2022. John Cena was the anniversary pretty much right at that specific time. Do I agree on the Parkland, Florida school incident verdict? When it gets into the trillions, that's almost bizarro, but you know what? You can't just, I know it's freedom of speech, but you can't say the things that you said. I mean, you look at some of these tragedies and you see what some people have said, and Alex Jones, I mean, he's done. He's done. I don't like the guy. I never really paid attention to him. I think, as I said on these shows in the past, once people start being able to take legal action against people via social media, that's when you'll see things start changing online. You can't just keep, talking shit. That's just not true. I don't even know the reasoning behind why some people do it or say what they say. All right, Crazy Cruiserweight. Here's a history question, but for music. Either go back in time and watch, don't watch it all, or erase from music history, right? Go back in time and watch it, don't watch it at all, or erase it from history. Choices are the Temptations, the Bee Gees, Earth, Wind, and Fire. If it was up to me, you could erase the Temptations from history. Sorry. A little bit before my time. I would want to go back and watch the Bee Gees. I'm not a fan of the Bee Gees anymore, but I was a big fan of Saturday Night Fever, and I was always into disco, still love disco. It would have been interesting to see that up close and personal. And Earth, you know what? No. Well, actually, you know what? Earth, Wind, and Fire, I don't have to watch it all. I could just listen to them. Earth, Wind, and Fire is fucking awesome, man. Earth, Wind, and Fire was awesome. I mean, I still think about the movie Caddyshack with Boogie Wonderland. All right? If any people don't know what I'm talking about, just go on YouTube. Just type in Boogie Wonderland and Caddyshack. Look at the scene. All right. Remember Rodney Dangerfield? What did he say about that old lady? I bet you was something, oh God, I'm not even going to go there. It's just, that's the, Caddyshack is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I have a weird top 5. Goodfellas, Godfather 2, Adventures of Ford Fairlane, Naked Gun, or Shawshank Redemption. That's kind of a tie. And Caddyshack. Probably I should have a top 10 instead of a top 5 because I think you can mix and match There's some others on that list. Which of these historical figures would I have liked to have met? George Washington Carver, Alexander Graham Bell, or Benito Mussolini? I probably would have been interested to meet Alexander Graham Bell. I would have liked to have seen, like, hey, check out this little invention that I made. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'd be like, hey, let's prank some people. You know, I wonder if when the telephone was first created around 1900-ish, I wonder if they pranked people. You know, no one ever asked that question. You know, can you imagine they were testing it out and they called people up? I hate to tell you, but unfortunately, you know, we found that, you know, your husband has, what was that disease that they had at that time? Oh, I can't remember. I'd be pranking people left and right. It would have been some interesting scams at that time. You know, like, we have your horse. You have to give us 3 cents or the horse dies. It sounds morbid, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen scams and prank calls at that time. If I was on death row, what would my last meal be? Probably pizza. I would hope that my mom could actually send me food. I would have her lasagna, eggplant parm, French fries, maybe McDonald's French fries, maybe even some fried wontons. I would have 5 different cuisines. I don't understand when you hear about some people on death row, you find out they had chicken, potatoes, and carrot cake. I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm having pizza, pasta, French fries, fried wontons, hamburger, you know, pistachio ice cream. I'd overload, man. Who gives a shit? What are you going to do? Gain 10 pounds? Is it going to matter in 24 hours? Finally, last one. Bring back, keep as a pet, or keep extinct. The Pinta Island tortoise, the quagga, and the Pyrenean ibex. I think it is. Well, I do know what the quagga is. Just for shits and giggles, I would keep the quagga. Quagga just sounds like a cool name. Hey, you want to meet my quagga? Yeah, I would keep the quagga. Keep extinct, the Pinta Island tortoise. I have nothing against tortoises, you know, and turtles, but to me, I don't know what worth they are. They're slow as shit. Obviously, that tortoise would eviscerate all of us, but I would keep that extinct and bring back the Pyrenean ibex, and I would send them to Iran. I'd send a few to Iran or Guantanamo Bay. Here, try to swim off the island, ibex bitch. Dom Gibson from Philly, congrats to me and the missus. Do I think Tony Khan should take WWE Triple H's strategy as far as running AEW by hiring creative writers, director of long-term creative, etc., etc., etc. Also have William Regal, Daniel Bryan, Jerry Lynn, turn and run Ring of Honor like an NXT type brand. They will never run Ring of Honor as an NXT type brand. Ring of Honor would never be looked at as developmental. Ring of Honor is a promotion that Tony Khan wishes would have been much bigger than what it was. Unfortunately, just because it's under the AEW banner, it's going to have its limitations. It has hurt the AEW product. There's all of the wrestlers that have appeared under Ring of Honor matches could have appeared in AEW. Period. When you see, you know, Ring of Honor being favored, give me one logical reason in 2022 why Ring of Honor is being favored over AEW sometimes. The only answer is because Tony Khan has this absolute love for Ring of Honor. That's selfish. That's selfish. Do it in your living room. Don't do it in my living room on my TV. So as far as him hiring creative writers, he has some already. He has some. If you're saying like outside of wrestling or Hollywood, I don't know, man. I don't know. Might get worse. But, you know, when people try to claim that AEW is not sports entertainment, you look at some of what you watch, you know, it's ridiculous. It's just a different version of sports entertainment. You know, I just think that Tony Khan, because of the amount of money he has. As long as he's not hemorrhaging money with AEW, I think he's fine. Give me 1 million viewers. Let's not lose too much money. And as long as I keep the networks happy, that's fine. Tony Khan is not looking at this to make billions. Tony Khan is just looking to create history with him at the helm. It's a big difference. All right. P.S. Go Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, 76ers. Okay. Well, you know what? Phillies are about to go into the World Series. And I think it's going to be the Phillies and the Astros. I mean, the Yankees still, have a shot, but what are they, down 2-0? I think, I got bad vibes. I think, that's the problem with some of these teams, especially when you have a lot of players that are prone to strikeouts. That you get into that rut in the playoffs and you're dead. Phillies got hot at the right time, and I think it's going to end up being Phillies and Astros. But the Astros, I think they won 106 games this year, not including the playoffs. I think it might be the Astros this year. I really do. Phillies would be a Cinderella story. I think Phillies won like 86 games. And I'm a Bryce Harper fan. So I like Bryce Harper. I like his attitude. So, I would root for the Phillies, but I have a feeling the Astros are going to get it. And look, if the Yankees could pull off a miracle, I'll root for the Yankees because I'm a New Yorker. I'm just being honest. I don't feel it with the Yankees. Mark Hicks II. Impact has been around for 20 years. Not quite what they used to be. They haven't decided to call it quits and sell the company. Who would be most appropriate to absorb the company and its video library? Believe it or not, I think WWE would value the video library for revenue purposes. But I think AEW would love the TNA library because of the style and the fact that they could actually have content that features some younger stars who are now WWE stars. I personally think, look, there's no secret. The TNA Impact library is worth a lot more than Ring of Honor's library. I just think when TNA folds, if it folds, I don't want it to fold, but if it folds, I don't see it being reborn. So Tony Khan, if he would buy to the Impact library, it would be to, build a catalog, of wrestling. The problem is TNA had a lot of sports entertainment on there. And, I don't know what Tony Khan would have, his true feelings. I don't think he was a big TNA fan. I think he probably loved the Knockouts division. I think he loved the younger guys like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. Even Christian Cage. The more you think about it, Kurt Angle, it's pretty wild when you think. I think who would benefit from the library more, in my opinion? I think AEW would benefit more because AEW would have a strong fucking streaming offer. They did a streaming service. You offer the Ring of Honor library, the AEW library since it started, and the Impact Wrestling library. Yeah, I think it would be worth $6-7 a month. So, all right. Do I think Impact stays alive for another 20 years? Honestly, and I'm just being honest, I don't see it. There's no wrestlers out there, waiting in the wings that is going to turn Impact Wrestling into some, everybody's going to be watching it, unless there's some major controversy. And even if you have companies merging together, I don't see it. And we have had Bullet Club is currently fighting in Impact. We've had Jay White, the Briscoes, Kushida, Bronson Reed and others, and it didn't generate any more viewers. Yeah, Kenny Omega there for almost a year. After a month, the ratings nosedived. Not because of him, it's just the overall product. How do you turn that around? It would take way too. I don't see it. Being honest. Roderick Howard. Whether it's WrestleMania 39 or sometime later, which scenario would I see resulted in the end of the Roman Reigns title run? 1, Seth Rollins making a full babyface turn in the middle of the 10-year Shield anniversary. Seth ultimately beating Roman, continue to be Roman's kryptonite. Number 2, after the bloodline turns on Sami Zayn with a vicious assault, fans show full relentless support for Sami to get his revenge, almost like a yes movement. Triple H listens to the crowd. Sami defeats Roman in the end. Of those two, Seth Rollins. Sami Zayn will team up with Kevin Owens. They will defeat the Usos, I think. I think that is going to be where it changes. I don't see Sami Zayn being the one to dethrone Roman. It's not a bad idea. I just don't see it. With the 25th anniversary of the Screwjob coming up, my thoughts on what WWE would have looked like if the Screwjob did not take place. I think the Mr. McMahon character could have still been born. And I'll tell you why. You know, a lot of people of today weren't wrestling fans in the early 90s. So they see clips of it and then they post it as if they lived through it. But, you know, Mr. McMahon was being teased back in Memphis. You know, Vince McMahon feuded. It was on my history show. I mean, how I chronicled Vince McMahon feuding with Jerry Lawler in, 1993 in Memphis? McMemphis, I think that's what the series was called. It was incredible. Vince McMahon was Mr. McMahon years before the Montreal Screwjob. Vince McMahon always wanted to be a character. I think you still would have Mr. McMahon. I think it would have been a little bit different. ECW was still around, so the hardcore, the attitude was still out there. D-Generation X would have still been out there. The Rock, Steve Austin. So I think the only difference would be the Mr. McMahon character, how it would have developed. Maybe it would have taken a little bit longer to develop. But Mr. McMahon, I think, would have definitely still been a character. So look, the Montreal Screwjob obviously, sped up that process. But in the end, I think a lot of what we ended up getting would have been similar in some way. But there's no way to know for sure. You can never know. Sammy Guevara in danger of being more trouble than he's worth in AEW? No. Zero. He is, remember what I always say, it's something that other places will not bring up. Tony Khan is a reflection of the culture, the climate, the environment. I said the night of the media scrum that in the end, the EVPs, Sammy Guevara, and people like that are 1,000 times more important to Tony Khan than CM Punk. Tony Khan loved CM Punk, the wrestler. But as far as the attitude, the mindset, the way things are handled, Sammy Guevara is like a cousin almost to Tony Khan. Everybody thinks that Tony Khan is a big victim here, that people are just not respecting Tony Khan. Tony Khan is very similar to those guys. So no, Sammy's job, unless he does something absolutely stupid and you have to take action, he ain't going nowhere. Joey B, without revealing what they are, do I use any wrestling references for passwords? I used to, but I don't anymore. It's amazing back in the day how many people would use passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or all ones, or the word password, or if somebody always talked about like their pet, they probably use their pet's name as a password, or I used to use some wrestling terminology in my passwords, but I don't anymore. I have one password that I've been using for about 15 years, but as the years go by, I add extra characters to it. So now my password is 12 characters, 12 or 13 characters. So as time goes by, I add a character, I add a symbol, and some passwords or some places where they don't accept symbols, I just keep the symbol off. Jim from Texas, formerly from New York, he's still looking for Osobuco. Yeah, I'm surprised that you haven't had much of a hard time to get it over there. What if the grid goes out and I get stuck in the cross Bronx, do I wait 5 years until they are perfected? I'd be dead. If I got stuck in the cross Bronx, life is over. Firing Cody, beside the performer, he was only person who could run the company if things changed. Tony takes his father's place. I guess these are comments. Doesn't seem like they're questions. Fire the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Ratings haven't tanked. Okay, you could fire them because ratings haven't tanked. If you remove the EVP title and keep them as wrestlers, there would be better salary reduction. Tony Khan doesn't care about the expenses. They're not going to be fired. I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, they're about to return. Their jobs were never in jeopardy. You know, they're given this perception, you know, that, you know, there was threats and legally. This is all about the culture in AEW, and those guys reflect it. Tony Khan and those guys know they had to do something publicly and told them, take a month off, take 6 weeks off. You know, let's just keep this quiet, use the investigation term. This way, when anybody wants to talk about it, I can just say no comment, there's lawyers involved, and that's how you get away with it. You don't think that these people have been working behind the scenes a little bit? They're just doing stuff from the house. So the other wrestlers, because not every single wrestler likes the EVPs that are in AEW. And I guarantee there's some wrestlers there would love to send some crumbs, you know, to expose a few things. What is the next AEW personnel hire to pop ratings? No idea. Maybe somebody leaves WWE. Not because they don't like WWE. Maybe they just want a little bit of a lighter schedule. Too much criticism of WWE TV. Average TV series show last 12 episodes. People, noise. They just want to make the noise. They complain about the littlest of things because there's so many people that like to yell and scream that there's always an audience for it. Just don't pay attention to it. WWE hired a former president of Las Vegas Raiders, had a law degree from Notre Dame. Tony Khan hires 3 indie wrestlers with no education or experience. He's got the money. That's his right. What is the succession plan for AEW? Who takes over if something happens to Tony Khan? That is probably the $100,000 question, the $1 million question everybody asks. What if Tony Khan can't keep up with this? You know, he may have to put heavy responsibility on Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. You know, I think Tony Khan, does he go down with the ship if he, for some reason, can't do this anymore? You know, it's interesting. I wonder if anybody's ever asked him, hey, Tony, God forbid something happens to you. You know, who handles this? I mean, it's kind of a weird question to ask anyway, because how do you even answer that? You don't want to put anybody's names on the spot. I mean, it would be really interesting to see. But look, it's a privately owned company. If I were to something happen to me, very tragic, my business would end. My insurance office, all the stuff I do, it would end. That's it. It's over. You know, with my dad, it's a little different because we have multiple family members involved. So any one of us could pick up and keep it going. So that company, you have some people there. I mean, I'm just curious if Tony Khan leaves it to anyone, probably leaves it to his dad, then his dad would have to hire some people. Believe it or not, if Shad Khan owned AEW instead of Tony, I have a feeling Shad Khan would probably run it more like WWE. You know, just bring in professionals. Just why I don't have to make my hands dirty. Tony's rich. Was the impact of the financial statement on the TV negotiations? We'll never know because it's not a publicly traded company. Shad Khan in Bleacher Report 2 years ago said his son lost $100 million. Tony lent $20 million to Game. Don't know what that means. He bought Ring of Honor for less than $2 million. No one wanted it. That's not true. WWE did want it. His dad lost $50 million of bankruptcy of the Black Network. I do remember that. Listen, it's chump change. These people are worth billions and billions and billions. Lose $200 million. That's crazy. But I always say it in the opposite. You know, when everybody focused on Vince McMahon paying out $14 million to women, I mean, every podcast out there, they just emphasized it and were fascinated. He paid $14 million. Meanwhile, in the stock market, over the last 6 months, Vince McMahon has made hundreds of millions of dollars. So please, when people make it such a big deal that Vince paid $14 million, Vince McMahon has made hundreds of millions of dollars this year. Do the math, look it up. Nobody covers it. Nobody even takes notice. I've made this public a few times this year. Everybody ignores it because they hate Vince. Or the cool thing is to hate Vince. So nobody wants to acknowledge that the man is making hundreds of millions of dollars. For us, it's big numbers. For them, it's not. He loves when Tony reports the top line number. We did $1 million. Never addresses the bottom line. Publicly traded company. Remember his banter with Big Swallow? Sure. Tony Khan learned his lesson very quickly there. And Tony Khan, I think, became a better person because of that. I still take Big Swallow's side over Tony Khan, but, it was just it was an ignorant comment on his part. I don't think there's any deep malice, it was just ignorance on his part. So, as you can see, all of Jim's comments are about Tony Khan and AEW. And he says racial equality, that attorneys are minorities, not understanding how minorities are in management roles. Look, I'm going to finish the show with this comment. How long are we going? About an hour. Okay, good. I wanted to get it done in an hour. I wanted to get right into the questions. I'll say this. I'm a white guy. I'm a chubby Italian middle-aged white guy. All right. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend being black or trying to understand, different cultures. But I'll say this. People have asked me, why do people use that excuse? My wife is Ecuadorian and German and a little Italian, but mostly Ecuadorian. All right. Mass Maniac. His wife, I think, is Polynesian. You have someone else who's white. Oh, my wife is black. My husband is Spanish. But and people are like, wait, because you have black friends, you can't be racist? Hulk Hogan. I got black friends. I hung out, with lots of black friends. I think the problem with all of those statements is, why I think majority of them are not racist? Again, chubby, white, middle-aged Italian guy saying this. But I think what I'm about to say may actually make a lot of sense to a lot of people out there. I'm not racist. 99.9% of you out there are not racist. You may have a little bit of pride because you're Irish or Italian or Spanish. It doesn't mean that you feel other nationalities are inferior. That's not racism. For me, racism is as far as blacks, you see with police violence, you see in the South, you see some shit that still goes on, that you just look at someone who's a minority. You just look at someone who's gay. You just look at someone who is transsexual and you get angry, you get hatred, you prejudge the person without knowing them. That's racism, in my opinion. That's homophobia. Where I'm going with this is, okay, if you're racist, anytime you are in the vicinity of a black person, you get uneasy, you get angry, you get uncomfortable. Okay. Think their logic is, with Tony Khan and others, when he says that he has black friends or Indian, whatever, or people work there. I think, I'm trying to understand it, but this is my guess. My guess is, if any of these people were truly racist, they would not have any friends that were black or whatever it is. They would not get married to someone who is that, color or if you are totally against a skin color, or sexual orientation or something like that, how do you tolerate having loads of friends that are fit that category? How do you marry someone? How do you see where I'm trying to understand why they say these things? You know, you prove that you're not racist based on how you treat people. Period. Doesn't matter how many friends of yours who are black or people you work with, or if you hire people, this and that. It's how you treat people. And I think if someone is racist, they wouldn't even consider, being around, anybody who they have hatred against. Remember, when you're racist, you usually prejudge everyone who is in a certain, category, culture, whatever it is. So that's the only way I could explain that. I'll never understand it fully. But again, I think that's the logic people make. It's similar to the logic of why many people, including me when I was younger, we used the F word that rhymes with maggot. Do I hate gay people? No. I have nothing against homosexuals. I could go the ignorant route and say, I have good friends of mine who are gay. I have relatives who are gay. I don't look at them any differently. Here's my point, though. Back when you're in the 80s, in the 90s, and I used to go to clubs, I witnessed it. I saw it, heard it. If you went to a club and you were a heterosexual guy, especially a guy that looked like he was from Jersey Shore, how do you embarrass someone like that? You could make fun of their hair. You could say they smell. You could, call them fat. But if you got a Jersey Shore type guy that's trying to be a player, trying to pick up girls, what is the one thing that you could say to that person to ultimately insult their intelligence? For most people, they would use the F word. Because what did you call me? You questions someone's manhood. In their eyes, that is the ultimate insult. And the problem is that when you got into an argument or a fight with someone, you looked at them and you would think, okay, as I see this person, what is the one thing I could call them that'll get them the angriest? So what would people do? If they're black, they would say, you know what? If they saw a Spanish guy, they would use the S word. If they saw a Jersey Shore guy, they would call him the F word. When you saw a person, you don't know anything about the person. You just have a visual and you think it to yourself, okay, what could I say to this person to get them the angriest, to insult them the most? For me, call me fat. Call me fat in front of my wife. Especially back in the day, that would hurt my feelings the worst. You want to make fun that I'm Italian? Fuck do I care? What are you going to call me, a pussy? Fuck do I care? You make fun of my weight in front of my wife or my girlfriend at the time, that's where you would hurt me the most. So people didn't use those horrible words because they hated those people that they were, they didn't hate people who were black or hate people who were gay. They only used those words because they thought those were the words that would hurt the person that they're arguing with the most. Now, as you grow older, you realize you're not trying to hurt any group of people, but it does hurt those group of people. So out of respect, you don't use those terms. Okay, you want to insult someone? Go get a little more creative. Find something, that hurts them, pisses them off without insulting a whole class of people. And, that's where, things changed. As I got older, back in the 2000s, I started getting very uncomfortable using some words. And I would see that some people that I was friends with, people online, people that I associate, people even in the wrestling world, when I was doing a little indie stuff, some of them would get uncomfortable. Look, I still have that clip with D'Lo Brown. I still have the clip. I'm sure a majority of you have never heard it. D'Lo Brown came on the Mass Maniac show back in 2007, I think it is. If you want, I'll put it up here one day. And I was on, And he talked about how he loved our podcast, that he'd bring it to Japan. And all the wrestlers in Japan would tune into our podcast. And I said to him, I said, listen, D'Lo, I honestly, do you get offended when I use tongue-in-cheek humor when it comes to black or gay or even Italian? He says, no. He says, there's no malice. There's no anger involved. You're just poking fun at everyone. And I really needed to hear that because I know in my heart, I don't hate anybody. I just wanted, to know, especially someone who is very well respected and is black, how do you feel about what we say and do? But for every person that brushed it off like, there's no malice. Some people really would get affected by it. And, as time goes by, out of respect for those, you don't say it. And it's words that never come out of my mouth. I don't even think about it because they're just not in my vocabulary. So anyway, all right. We ended up going over an hour. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Leave some comments. Now, don't forget on November 3rd, Thursday night at 8:05 p.m., JD from New York will be joining me here. So we are about 2 weeks away for that. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an epic show. I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea how heated some of these debates are going to get. But one thing is for sure, we're going to have a lot of fun. And we hope that everyone out there loves the show. It's going to be a clash of styles and views. But, I have nothing but respect for that guy. I disagree with a lot of his stuff, but I have nothing but respect for that guy. And it's going to be an epic episode. I am really looking forward to it. So we'll do the next mailbag probably a week or two after that. I haven't decided if it'll be the 10th or the 17th of November. Remember, Thanksgiving week, I am going away for 5 days. So there'll be no mailbag for Thanksgiving week. So probably the week before, I would think. But I'll let everybody know. You have plenty of time to send any comments in. Feel free to leave any feedback from this episode. If you have any follow-up questions, post it in the comment section. I will answer it during the week. So, everyone, much love as always. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this episode. And I'll catch you all again on the next mailbag. Be well, everybody.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.